Okay, everyone. Monday morning. How are you feeling after Celtic's victory yesterday? It was far from easy, but we got the job done. 7 wins from 7 in the Premiership this season. John is with me. Interesting game, John.
Interesting, yep. The old cliche tale of two halves. Very passive to begin with, and then I thought that the team did well to dig it out in the end, because at one stage, on the hour mark, when you're making the substitutions, you're worried that we're not going to get that goal, not going to get the second goal. And suddenly, a bad week, but a week we can move on from, becomes a bit of a horror week going into the international break. So, full credit to the players for eventually getting the job done.
Yeah, 1-0 down. I was kind of worrying about this being the final game going into the break, and knowing how miserable we would all have felt for a couple of weeks going in off a couple of defeats. As we say, the team got the job done. First half, I thought we controlled the game.
Yeah.
I still thought we were the better team. County created very little, really. I think they had one kind of half shot from the forward before they got the penalty. But I just felt our final ball was poor. Dyson Maeda was kind of looking the most likely again, but I thought he was quite wasteful, which has been unlike him recently. I didn't think we were horrendous. I just thought that kind of final bit of quality was lacking.
I think Roger said after the game, it was like we were wanting to play the game too easy or something, and didn't really want to get out of our comfort zone. A lot of that kind of passing in the horseshoe motion that gets slagged by other teams. And just felt that we were just lacking that kind of killer pass, that vertical pass. And I thought, a couple of the players in the midfield looked really off it. Notably Rio Hatate and Arne Engels for me just didn't have. They were just lacking something. I think their touch was off. They didn't quite see the passes that might have unlocked the defence on another day. I just don't think they were up for the way Ross County were approaching the game, pretty much packing the box, which is their right to do. I'm not complaining about that, but they set up a very specific game plan to pack the box on a narrow pitch and try and stifle Celtic. And to be fair to them, I think they did stifle Celtic without troubling us too much in that first half. Apart from obviously the penalty that they scored.
Yeah, as I say, I agree with that. I thought Engels was a bit off it. Hatate, I thought, did some good bits. It wasn't a great Hatate performance. I thought there was wee moments where he looked all right, but kind of slack at other times. But as I say, I didn't think it was like awful. I just thought we were lacking that extra bit of quality or bit of drive to get in behind. Kuhn was quite quiet early on in the game. Obviously came on to do quite well. But as we see, County weren't causing us many issues. We then have Liam Scales sticking his hand up in the air and penalty given. No issues about that. In our wee group chat, I did try to say that it was maybe similar to Connor Barron's on the opening day. Having watched that back, very different. That could still have been a penalty, by the way, but Scales for me definitely was.
Yeah, Stonewaller penalty for me. In this, just in any day and age, really, that's a handball in the box, and definitely a penalty. I was a bit peeved, Schmeichel saves it. But again, replays show he does come off his line. Now, I don't think that gets called as coming off his line if we don't have VAR, but we do have VAR, and he clearly came off his line as the ball's kicked. Saves the penalty, but they get another shot and they bang it in. So it was just a frustrating few minutes that, and you're thinking, is it going to be one of those days? Because just everything seemed to just kind of be turning against us a little bit at that stage, because we hadn't even had a shot on target at that stage, or just had one shot on target at that stage. So it wasn't as if we were banging on the door and then they kind of got their big chance in the game and took it, and we weren't really creating any chances in the game at that point.
What did you make of Casper scuffing up the penalty spot? Did you share Chris Sutton's disgust at that?
No, I love that kind of part. I don't mind that at all. It's the kind of thing that if the opposition's doing it, you're calling them all sorts of names. If your team does it, I'm not fussed at all. I quite like the dark arts, so to speak. I quite like that side of the game. I think that's what we should probably be doing more of, in Europe especially. So I quite like that bit of arrogance. It takes a wee bit of arrogance to do something like that, and I quite like that in a player.
So how are you feeling at half time? It's fair to say some people were getting quite concerned, which is fair enough. The team were not playing well, as you say, no shots on target. County had the lead. How are you feeling at the break?
Well, I mean, obviously I wasn't happy because you're 1-0 down, and then you take a deep breath and you go, look, this is the first league goal we've conceded all season to this point. Let's just give the team the space to do the job in the second half. I thought they would get back into the game, and I thought if they got the first goal, they would get the second goal, which is the case with all sorts of these games all over leagues all over Europe where there's a dominant team. Once you get that first goal, there's a breakthrough. The other teams start to lose their discipline slightly, start to overcommit players in certain areas, and then you exploit them. And I thought, at half-time I was thinking, I think we can get back into this. I'm not particularly happy with the way the first half went, but it's one league goal conceded up to that point, which isn't too bad at this stage of the season.
Yeah, it's a good point you make, because for me, I felt the same way. I felt that if we got one goal shooting into that end with the Celtic support, with the confidence we would get and the confidence from being able to break County down in a bad day, I felt we would go on to win the game. The difficulty was going to be getting that first goal, and I did genuinely, what did we score, 76? Alistair Johnson's goal went in. Prior to that, I remember looking at the clock at 70 minutes and we still weren't playing well. Johnston was off it. Engels had come off by then, I think, but he's, was passing the ball to County players. And I genuinely did, for the first time have that feeling, are we going to be able to score today? Because we weren't really creating much. Johnson gave the ball away and County had that shot over the bar. So it felt a little bit like one of those games from last season. I thought the start of our second half performance was really poor. Having said that, I thought the subs that Rodgers made a big difference. We could pick out probably all of them. I thought Luke McCowan was really good when he came on. I actually thought James Forrest made a pretty big difference as well. He was able to just kind of calm things down a little bit. I mean, we love Dyson Maida. We do absolutely love him, but he can be quite erratic when he's not at it. And he was getting into good areas and nothing was coming off. I just felt when Forrest came on, it just gave us a little bit more control in that left wing. He was able to kind of size up and find wee passes that Maida wasn't. Bernardo was good as well, and Kyogo.
Yeah, I mean, even Kyogo, Kyogo wasn't, heavily involved. But yeah, just the way that I think his movement creates space for others to play. But I really thought Luke McCowan changed the game. I mean, I thought he was the spark that really started getting us playing, started getting us playing more aggressively and more ambitiously with the ball, which is just what you're needing from a midfielder. And I think, perhaps if it was Hatate coming off the bench at that point, he would have performed a similar role. But I just think we needed that kind of creative force, someone who's got their head up, taking the ball and just really looking to play the killer pass. And it took a while to get that goal. And it took a while, another 10 minutes to get the second goal. But it's just interesting because it's just like it was almost the first time that County kind of lost themselves in terms of where they were on the pitch. We'd equalised and they're thinking maybe we can hit them on the counter and get a goal ourselves. And just the one moment that they just kind of forget themselves a little bit, that's the moment that Celtic punished them. And that kind of shows you how Celtic, for all we're saying they were passive and it was a little bit slow, Celtic are always looking for that moment, and we found it. And Kuhn's always got, it wasn't Kuhn's best day up to that point, but his goal was really the only burst of real quality in the entire match. And we waited for that moment, for that chance to come, and Kuhn takes it. And you've seen other games, and this is the difference between drawing and winning games. We've seen in the past having that big moment, having that big chance towards the end of one of these games and not taking it. And I think that was obviously crucial and pleasing to see that Kuhn just has that bit about him where he takes that chance, assesses, realises Kyogo's in an offside position and just takes it on to bang home himself. And I thought that was, for all the, he didn't have a great game up to that point, that's why he's in the team and that's why he's at Celtic. And he showed he has the intelligence, the mentality to come up big in these moments, and that's really huge.
Yeah, it was a great finish, great play. I think because we kind of worked the ball all the way from our own corner. I think Paulo Bernardo was involved, and I remember Luke McCowan taking one out the air. I thought McCowan, I agree with you. I thought McCowan was great when he came on, and he just he's able to get into those wee gaps that maybe someone like Engels isn't, just because he's that kind of bit smaller. And I think, against packed defences, he's quite good at picking up those areas. And he's got a great left foot. He was playing a couple of balls in that people just weren't gambling on.
Listen, you know what the great thing about McCowan is? And I think I'm assuming it's deliberate on Rodgers' part, is that Rodgers trying to build a squad. He's trying to have fringe players in the squad. He knows Luke McCowan's a Celtic fan. He's bringing Luke McCowan to Celtic to be motivated literally every time he comes on that pitch. He's not going to be huffing and moaning about the place, arguably like David Turnbull was. He's not going to be, upset that he's not playing. When he gets his opportunity, he's going to come into the game and he's going to try to really, really impact that game as a Celtic fan. And Rodgers did a similar thing with Johnny Hayes. Now, I think Luke McCowan's a better player than Johnny Hayes, but you remember he brought Johnny Hayes in, he kind of performed a similar role. He always gave everything and he always tried to make an impact when he did get his opportunity. He never grumbled about his position in the squad. And I think that was, I wouldn't go so far to say it was a stroke of genius bringing Luke McCowan in, but I think it was a really solid move that, was probably underrated at the time, but is already paying off for me. And to the point where I would give McCowan a start at this point. I want to see him start a game and see how he performs starting a game, because I thought he was really good today. And you just he knows these opposition teams. He's been playing against stodgy Scottish teams his entire life. He played in the Championships, a tough league for that kind of thing. He played for Dundee. He knows the league. He knows the other teams. He knows a lot of these other players. And I think just bringing in a bit of that expertise was crucial at that point. For all the talent that Engels has, he's still adjusting to this league. And sometimes you need someone who knows what it's all about to come in and do a job.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Even he comes on into that game and there was it didn't really take him any time to get up to speed. And, he was a big part of us getting that win, the way he came on and again changed the game. So, yeah, the subs, Bernardo, without doing anything incredible, was better than Hatate and Engels. So I think that's a big positive. That's a couple of games now this season, Falkirk and Ross County, that we've won from our subs, effectively. So that was great. I just felt, going back to the first goal, I felt that Callum McGregor might be involved in the goal. It felt that kind of game. And I know the shot from McGregor, I think it's going wide, and he had that one before he just put by the post. But I just feel sometimes in those games when things are tough, it's very often Callum McGregor who just kind of makes something happen with a wee snapshot or something like that. Johnson said he knew nothing about it and was trying to get out of the way.
I mean, I did feel the urgency from McGregor. I mean, again, not McGregor's best game, but I did feel it, and you could, at that point, an hour into the game, McGregor's not going to be one of the players who's sitting back and just going through the motions. He's going to be really bursting for that equaliser, for that winner. So I kind of agree with you. I mean, McGregor's always going to give us that.
Alex Valle, I thought, had a pretty good game. Probably my best performer of the players who started the game. He was bombing up that wing all the way until the last minute. Maybe his delivery could do with a little bit of work. I think he got into some good areas and crosses were either looped or overhit. But we always like a comparison, don't we? We bit of Izagiri in the way he was kind of rampaging up that wing and getting back. And I was quite impressed with Vi.
Takes the ball really tight into himself and turns really nicely, and I really like that in a kind of fullback. Especially, he was playing very centrally in that first half.
Yeah.
And he would kind of needed that kind of close control quite a lot. He doesn't look like he's only 20 to me. He doesn't look like a young player to me who doesn't have a lot of senior experience. And I think it wasn't a blow-away performance, but I think it was a solid performance across the 90 minutes. Probably the most consistent performer from minute 1 to minute 90. So yeah, I mean, Greg Taylor's injured at the moment, so the place is up for grabs, and I think he did what he needed to do to show that he can play when we need him to play in the league.
Austin Trusty, I thought, looked not bad as well. Obviously not a vintage performance, but I feel like he's just grown a little bit as well after a pretty tough midweek. Any kind of injury update from the manager? Anything else from the manager after the game?
He said Carter Vickers is coming back into training during this coming week, I think. So I'm pretty sure Carter Vickers will be back if there's no setbacks after the international break. And then I think Taylor might miss 1 or 2 games after the break again. I think Taylor's just coming back up, and Alistair Johnston's fine. He's not going away with Canada, so he's going to get extra time here as well. So things are looking not too bad on the injury front. I'm not too worried about Carter Vickers. I think the communications on it is going to be one of those ones where it's kind of pain more than significant damage, and that it just needed time. I think he was back out in the grass or working on it last week just on his own, and I think he'll be back in group training towards the end of the coming week, in anticipation for the Aberdeen game, which is looking like a 100% tussle showdown. I'm looking forward to that game, actually. Not sure what 100% tussle showdown is, but it sounds pretty good. I'm thinking that's going to be a good game. There's going to be a lot of hype about it, and it's one of those games where I think that Celtic are going to turn up for it because they're going to hear a lot of noise around it, and I think a lot of the noise is going to agitate them a wee bit and motivate them to maybe, hopefully, fingers crossed, burst Aberdeen's bubble a little bit, because I thought today was a pressure test for them. That 3 p.m. kickoff at home to Hearts, they were 2-1 down in the second half, come back to win 3-2 to keep pace with Celtic and know that they're going to Celtic Park equal on points with Celtic. I thought that was a pretty big moment for them, and I think that's going to be a pretty tasty game. It's a better challenge than we're getting from Rangers, that's for sure.
Yeah, a reminder for me of, do you remember the game against when Hearts were high-flying all the way back in 05-06? Now, to be fair, I think Hearts had dropped points. I think Falkirk drew with Hearts the week before we played them, I remember that. But I remember that game, the hype for that game was huge because people felt Hearts were potential title winners. I've not actually heard anyone saying Aberdeen could win the league, I think just because we're so strong. But, we've won 7 out of 7, and it's the first time since 2010 we've done that. So that tells you the scale of our achievement, but Aberdeen's as well.
I'm sure there was a season a few years ago under McInnes where they won 8 games in a row and beat us at some point in that run as well, unless I'm totally misremembering. But I feel like they've
not at the start though.
Oh yeah, maybe that's right. Yeah, but I'm sure they've been on this rodeo before where they're feeling like they're hyped up and feeling good about themselves. But I didn't see the Aberdeen game today, but I did listen to it on the radio, and Pataudry sounded fierce, like there's belief and hope there. And I don't mind that. I mean, fair play to them. Like, if you're, we were saying before we played Dortmund, if you can't get excited about your team winning 7 games in a row in the league, and obviously they had a good run in the League Cup and they're in the semi-final as well, then what can they get excited about? They should be coming to Celtic Park feeling confident, feeling good about themselves. But it's up to us to do to them what Dortmund did to us. Now, I'm not going to say we're going to beat Aberdeen 7-1, but it's up to us for them to kill their hope. That's what Celtic's job will be.
It's going to be a great game. I mean, it's going to be as you say, I think the hype's going to be massive. It's going to be a total seller. I always remember going back to that Hearts game. I remember it because the official attendance that day was over 60,000. So I wonder if you could get something close to that. It's almost a shame in a way. Obviously, I don't want to take tickets away for Celtic fans, but it's a shame there's not a bigger away allocation, because I think Aberdeen would shift probably 3,000 tickets pretty comfortably for this, and it would make for an amazing atmosphere. As it is, they'll probably have 1,000 there, but the Celtic end will be sold out. And I think you're right. I mean, some game to come back to, isn't it? Because you always worry about that game you come back to being a bit tough. Maybe the atmosphere won't be great, a bit rusty, but we can't afford to be rusty. I mean, away from the whole scale of the match, it's going to be a real challenge, because they're clearly a very resolute team based off the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, and when they were 2-1 down to Hearts today, I'm thinking, oh, that's it, they've blown it already. They couldn't even deal with this. But then they came back. I know Hearts went down to 10 men, and that helped them get the win in the end. But still, to pull that out of the bag was pretty good. And as I say, Pataudry was sounding fierce, so fair play to them. We'll see what they bring. Not really. I've not actually seen Aberdeen too much this season, so
yeah, I'm the same.
Looking
I've
forward
not
to
watched them
seeing,
once.
Yeah, what they bring under this new guy.
Yeah.
And see how they go against us.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to find out all about them before that game. I think they like to pass the ball as well, so should be a good game. Just reflecting on this 6-game period, John, we're into another international break. We've had 5 wins and a defeat, scored a lot of goals, conceded a lot of goals in one game. We've had new players integrated. Arne Engels is now a kind of established player. Look, McCowan, as we're saying, Austin Trusty's getting there, Valle. How would you reflect on the past 6 games?
I think if you looked at it and said you win 5 of these 6 games and you'll lose against Dortmund, you would take it, and that's what's happened. Now, I know the Dortmund thing, I'm not going to go all over it again. It was too heavy a defeat. It felt worse than it had to feel, I think. And, we'll just move on from that. Come back into an intense Aberdeen game, come back into that Atalanta game, and then see where we're sitting after that. It's a couple of big games for me. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, so 6 games in the block we've just finished, 7 in the next one. Aberdeen twice. We've got 2 Champions League games, 2 crackers, Atalanta away, Leipzig at home. Both Dundee teams coming to Celtic Park in the space of a few days, plus Motherwell away and Kilmarnock away. So it's going to be excellent. Looking forward to another international break, John.
No, absolutely hate them, but I am looking forward to that run of games. I mean, that's the proper time of the season, isn't it? Late October, November, December. This is when we find out what a team's made of. So I really am looking forward to seeing what the team have to offer. I think we've got the depth this year not to be too sidetracked by injuries and problems, which was a real problem last year, real problem. And then we'll see what the other teams can do, up against us. I think County showed today that you've got to work for every win. You can't just let it pass you by, because the games are so quick and they will just pass you by in the blink of an eye. And there is penalties that can come, and there is set piece goals that you concede, and Celtic aren't totally impervious to any of that. So need to keep working, need to keep doing what they're doing really at this point.
Yeah, that's a point I wanted to make, actually. The fact that, people portray this winning domestically as a formality for Celtic. I think the game yesterday, proved that it can be difficult. Things can go wrong in games. You can have stuffy opposition teams who are more motivated against you than any other team. So the team found a way, and we moved forward into the next international break. We'll be continuing with videos throughout, by the way. Just another reminder that you can listen to all our videos now, John. People should definitely do that. Have you taken advantage of this yet? You don't have to look at me or yourself.
I actually did. I did. I subscribed on my wee Pocket Cast app to the feed, so I will be probably checking that out more often, because I do listen to a lot of podcasts. Actually, I do watch a lot of YouTube other channels as well. Not, just non-football channels on YouTube. But I do like a podcast, so I will be using that going forward.
Excellent. Right, okay. So that's your Monday video. Back tomorrow when I'll be in a new location. So speak to you then.